I'm not crying anymore, oh, because I praise the Lord. I've been laughing all day long because of my Lord. Depression doesn't faze me anymore. Anxiety is gone because of my Lord. It's time.
Hey everybody, welcome to Lost Light and Laughter, an uplifting show about laughter after tragedy. I'm your host, Michelle A. If you're ready for some inspiration and laughter in your life, you've tuned in to the right show.
It's time to show love, everybody. Show love one time. Feel me strong enough to fight my battles. I know he'll never give me more than I can handle. My Lord, my King.
Hey everyone, welcome back to Lost Light and Laughter, an inspirational show about laughing after tragedy. I'm your host, Michelle A. And on today's episode, I'll be sharing my story with you about losing control. So, where do I begin? Sometime late last year, probably around August, and this is the time we were experiencing the troops coming home from Afghanistan. And for some of you, you may not know this, but I used to be in the military, and I was actually stationed in the same area that the troops were leaving in Afghanistan. And so, I was praying and praying because we saw a lot of devastation. We saw a lot of pictures of people jumping off of planes, trying to escape Afghanistan. We saw the young girls and women that were kidnapped by the Taliban. We saw lots of devastation. And there's a lot of praying going on. And I know what it's like to be in that country. And so I was definitely praying for all the servicemen and women to just kind of come on home and begin to transition from being in a war zone, basically, to coming back home into civilian life for some, or just back home still serving in the military. And so around that time, I had received some mail, and it belonged to the women that used to own this home. And they were just across the alleyway visiting our neighbor. And so I said, hey, I have some mail for you. And it's like, oh, come on over. So I went on and I took the mail over there, and they invited me in. I was like, no. But I said, let's be neighborly, Michelle. I had to coach myself into coming in and just, sitting and chatting with neighbors. And so I went inside and we sat and we conversed and we had a really great time. And one of the ladies said, hey, we really want to thank you for your service. And I was like, no big deal. And I didn't think anything of it. And then another one of the ladies said, hey, did you know there was another bombing? And I'm like, what? And I was like, yeah, another bombing. And then all of a sudden, it felt like a huge explosion happened inside of my body. Like it blew up inside of my body. Like physically, that's the only thing I can possibly think of to describe it. And then all of a sudden, all of these emotions and tears started welling up, and I was crying. I was like boo-hooing in front of people like I don't even know that well. Okay, that's not me. I barely cry, much less in front of complete strangers. And I wouldn't say complete strangers, but I didn't know them well enough to say, okay, I'm going to cry in front of them. And I just couldn't control it. I could not control it. And I was just like, all right, quickly, I left. They were, they gave me hugs, and they were just like, I'm so sorry. I just want to thank you for your service. I really appreciate all you've done. And I left. I couldn't even take it anymore. And I was just like, oh my goodness, look at the time. I have to pick my daughter up from school. And so I went and I grabbed Michaela and I came back home, and I knew that something wasn't right. My entire body started trembling. I thought, okay, I'm crying. Okay, I let it out. It's done. I'm good. Sometimes after a good cry, you're all right. Well, that was not the case. Unfortunately, that was just the beginning. And then all of a sudden, my body, it started shaking and trembling, and I couldn't even control it. I was just like, what the heck is happening right now? All right. This is not normal. I usually have control over my body or my members. Like some people say, I have that level of control. And all of a sudden, I couldn't even control it. I couldn't stop the crying and I couldn't stop the trembling. But I knew I did not want my daughter to see me this way because it was scary for me. And so I text her friend's mom and I said, hey, can Michaela come spend the night with you? And she was just like, yeah, sure. And I kind of explained what was happening. She was like, right on the way. And she never even looked at me. I didn't even want my daughter to look at me. And I did not want to make eye contact with her because something was crazy. Something crazy was happening. And she left. And then all of a sudden, the crying increased. It was just like I did the best that I could to get this girl out of the house so she could not see me. And I texted a friend who's a therapist. And I started explaining what was happening. And we talked on the phone. And she kind of was like, Michelle, there's a lot happening. And she was like, I'm not necessarily surprised that it's happening because of the life I lived. Like for me, I just keep going. Like things will happen. I feel like I've got it under control. It's resolved. I'm good to go. I'm ready. And I'm one that I'm pretty self-aware. So I do talk about my faults, my proclivities, the things that my shortcomings. I talk about all of that. So I'm not exempt from knowing who I am and what I'm about. But this was different. And she was like, Michelle, you have been through so much. And it was levels upon levels upon levels of trauma with the divorce, the moving, issues at my job at the time. Like everything was happening. I just kind of like moved through it. And I really believe that God gave me the strength and he equipped me to get through all of this stuff. And well, she said, you know what, this is your first time really in your adult life where, and probably my entire life, which is sad to say, but it is what it is, where I've had a chance to rest and relax. And so my body was in a relaxed state when the shock of the explosion in Afghanistan happened. And that's when I began to feel everything. And I am not like, when I say everything, I mean every single emotion came over my body. Okay. And I was trying to decide what direction I needed to go in, but I couldn't even control that. It was just like everything was coming up to the surface. And someone texted me the suicide helpline. And I called to try to get help with a therapist to kind of talk about what was going on, because I really did not want to, how do I say it? I had a friend that was a therapist, but I'd rather her just be my friend. I didn't want to cross the line of her being my therapist and my friend. So I just felt like, hey, I'd rather keep the friendship and let me get a therapist. Let's find out what's going on with my body. And so I went in and I talked to someone at the VA, and I needed a little bit more help. Let's just say that. No knock to the VA or anything like that, because I did get the help that I needed from the VA, but we just needed to try something different. And over the course of realizing that I needed a little bit more help, my physical body had really, my body had kind of shut down. It had did a no move. It was like, no. Whatever my mind was thinking, and I was like, okay, I can turn here. My body was like, nope. You can sit here. My body was like, nope. You can bend here. My body was like, nope. You can walk here. My body was like, nope. My body was rebelling against me. And that's the only way I can really think of it. And it was like my entire body was in shock. And all these emotions and feelings were at the surface. But it wasn't just, it was stuff from my past, but it wasn't just my stuff. It was everyone's stuff. Any person that had confided with me over the years, all of their stuff was coming up. It was like I was replaying all my stuff and their stuff. And I was just like, what is that? When I tell you I was bombarded, some people call this spiritual warfare. Like it was cray cray. It was bad. And I lost all control. And it was just like, hey, what's going on here? And people were trying to reach me and I could text, but I could not talk. Like I physically, my body was in such level of shock. I could not speak, right? I could text and no one knew how bad it was, but they could not hear my voice because I physically could not talk. And, I had a friend that I was texted and it was like, let me call you. I was like, no. Because it was really that bad. And it was just like, I could not explain it because it's never happened to me at to this magnitude. My body's been in shock before, but not this long. My body felt like it was in shock for days. And I just stopped talking to people. Like I kind of closed everything off. And it was just like, hey, I can't physically talk to you. I can't talk to you. Like my mom was trying to call me and I was just like, decline. My daughter, I was just like, hey, I let her friend, mom know that I needed a little bit more time. And she was like, no problem. And she was able to take her to school and bring her back home. And it was just like, I just isolated myself. And I finally made it in and I was able to talk to my personal doctor at the VA. And she knew something was wrong. And we have a pretty good relationship. She's an awesome doctor. And she knew like, this is not the Michelle I know. I know Michelle. This is not her. And so she gave me some options and I was like, I don't like any of these options. Okay. When I tell you this episode is about losing control, I'm like, I lost all control. Okay. Nothing I wanted was manifested. Nothing I wanted was happening. I was like, my body was telling me no. And my options was like, I don't want these options. So I ended up dealing with accepting one of her. She said, hey, you can do A or you can do B. Okay. But you got to do one. And I was like, okay, I'll do B. And so I went home and I was kind of like in a daze. And I woke up and I would set an alarm and I asked my doctor, I was like, look, I don't know how this is going to work. And she was just like, I'm going to write you an excuse to be out of work. And it was crazy because I love my job. The job that I'm at now, when all this happened, I absolutely, positively love it. It's like a true representation of me. I enjoyed going to work. So not being able to work was like, oh, no. Now I've lost control of every single thing. Okay. It was just like, this is not happening. And I was like, all I did was take some mail across the alleyway, and now this, and all I could think of like is, how did I get here? I just took mail, and I kept thinking, all I did was take mail, and I'm sitting here like in this place. My body is shut down. The only thing I could do, like I was physically walking like an old person, okay? And the only place I felt safe was my home. And I would take my daughter to school, come home, sleep through the entire day, set my alarm, pick her up, brought her home, make sure she had something to eat. She was good. And, I talked to her. At that time, my speech was like really slow and it felt like I was like Eeyore. Okay. Like, I'm okay. That's fine. All right. And it wasn't me. There was no rhythm. There's no passion. There was no joy. It was like all of the life of me was just kind of sucked out. And I explained to my daughter that I said, hey, listen, mommy's really sad. And some people died where mommy used to work. And it made me really, really sad. And she understood. And I did the best that I could with what I had. And it took probably about a week. And I slowly got better, slowly got better, slowly got better. And I was there, and all I could do was just wait for everything to come back the way that it used to function. The way I would walk, the speed of my walk, and the rate of the way I would speak, like my inflection, the tone, the laughter. Like all I could do was wait for it to come back. Okay. And even my words, like there were some, I had a hard time pronouncing some words after my speech started to come back. And
we'll be back after a quick break.
Do you want to learn more about the Bible and how it reveals God's plan for humanity? Do you want to discover the connections between the Old and New Testaments and how they form one cohesive story? If so, you should listen to Reasoning Through the Bible, a podcast that explores the scriptures verse by verse with clarity and insight. Join us every week as we dive into the historical context, theological implications, and answers to questions about each passage to see how they apply to our lives today. Don't miss this opportunity to grow your faith and understanding of God's Word. Subscribe to Reasoning Through the Bible.
It was scary because I was just like, God, the one thing that I have that I know you gave me, and that was my voice, it's gone. I had no control of anything. And it was devastating. It was devastating. And all I can do was wait and wait and wait. And I don't like waiting. I lost all control of time frame. And I was slowly healing, and my body was slowly, just returning to its normal state. But in the end, like, I felt like I was reborn. Like my mind, everything was just like I was starting all over again. I remember when I returned back to work, and I kind of, I had the best office, like my boss, my coworkers, they were all so supportive of me because they knew me, and it was like, no, that's not her. This is scary. This is not her. We're just going to be praying and hoping that, this too shall pass. And I remember going to my office, and I was trying to count because I hand out these incentives to kids every 6 weeks. And I was sitting there just trying to count the little prizes. And I struggled to count. Okay. I made it up to like 99. Okay. Just getting to 100, I want to say, like my brain was pulsating. It was physically hurting from counting, just even remembering how to count. I would sit there in my office and struggle to spell a word. I'm like, how do you spell the? I'm here trying to learn how to spell words. And I was like, God, this cannot be it. This cannot be my portion. And, oh, God, His mercy. When I tell you about the goodness of God in the land of the living, okay, He really did. It was like a humbling, scary, happy, joyous. It was all wrapped up in one. It was just like God redeemed so much. And I was slowly coming back, but I came back with another level of confidence. And I also came back with, I really don't care. And it was just like the people-pleasing spirit. If I had one, it was gone. What people thought of me, if I cared, I didn't. It was just like when you lose your reality, okay, your very livelihood, like, okay, being able to speak is taken from you, being able to communicate and laugh and act silly when it's gone. It's just like, I'm not going here ever again. And I remember, God just said, he just renewed me. And I remember praying for that. Like, God, please, this can't be it. And I don't know where I went wrong. And I think that was the issue with me. I always felt like I did something wrong. But consciously, I was thinking, what did I do wrong? And I couldn't take another person. Listen, if you had an accusing spirit, you were gone. Okay? Gone. All right? If you were determined to misunderstand me or take something out of proportion, gone. Okay? And when I tell you, like, God healed me. He healed so much. And it was like he took me all the way back to the very beginning. And he began to, I was like a baby, almost in a sense, like it was a rebirthing of Michelle. And it was just like, I don't know where my confidence at one point, where it was lost, but it was restored. Where faith, or let me say this, where fear entered in, it was gone. It was just like the Michelle that I used to be. The boldness was just, it was back to another level. All the things that I learned, right, at a certain point in my life that put me in a box, it was like time to unlearn that mess. And I did. And it was just renewing, refreshing, starting all over. I remember I would do word searches. I would connect dots. It was just like I was coming back from the storm. It really was. And it was scary for me. Very, very scary. And God was right there with me. And he was reminding me of dreams and visions that he had put in me I was just stagnant, just waiting for something to happen. And I'm like, there's nothing like losing your voice and feel like you're losing your entire life to shake some stuff up. But he reminded me of all of that, and he brought it back, and it was like he equipped me to go forward without fear. And I remember the first time that I can say that I was laughing. And it wasn't even like I intended to laugh at something. I was telling my story to someone and I was like, yeah, and I sound like Eeyore. And she started laughing. And then I started laughing because I was like, I don't even sound like that. But I did. That's what it felt like. It was like my mind was going, but my body was like, And it was the craziest thing. And look, I looked up so many, medical terminology for what happened to me. And I will not go into it because I'm not a licensed doctor. But I figured out some things and I lost all control. And for anyone that have ever experienced the loss of control, you are not alone. And sometimes you just have to let it go. And the minute I let go of wanting to hold on to the old Michelle and the old friendships and the way things used to be, the minute I let go of all of that, it was like something broke off of me. It was just like, if you're going to go to the next phase in life, you have to let all of this go. And I did. I walked away from so much and I was just new. I was reborn. I was refreshed. And to some people, I probably look and sound the same. But for those that witnessed and saw what happened, they can tell the difference. And so I am really blessed to say that God is faithful. And so if you've ever felt like there was a point in your life where you lost all control, or you feel, let me say this, like you're losing control, maybe you should. Maybe you should let go of that level of control over your life. And like the song says, Jesus, take the wheel. Even though you thought he was driving. He was like, I thought Jesus already had the wheel. Why am here. Well, apparently not, friend. That's why you're here. But that was me. And so any advice that I could possibly give people, it's just like, live your life. And sometimes it's easier said than done. But I pray that, hey, you don't have to have a major shutdown of your body to get there, to find that, And sometimes we feel like we've given it all up to God, which I genuinely believed I did. I didn't have any, I would say, any clues that I hadn't given it up to God. I was in a really great place. And let me say this too, because I don't ever want to accuse someone. All right. Maybe you did give it all up to God and something still happened. Okay. That's a very real possibility. Okay. Because I felt like I had given it all up to God. Like I was, walking with God. I thought we were a really great place. And I had just a joyful and a grateful spirit. So it wasn't like I was going through anything bad. I was genuinely happy. I was like, okay, we go on in and talk to my neighbors and stuff like that. I was in a really great place, just happy about everything that the Lord was doing in my life. And maybe, just maybe, God wants to expand your life. And so unfortunately, there are some things that may, for a lack of a better term, may blow up in your life because he's going to give you a new and a better life. Okay. And I know the scripture talks about him, behold that he's doing a new thing. Do you not perceive it? And I'm like, no, I didn't perceive it, God. I didn't. But now I do. And because of that, all these doors have opened up for me in a small amount of time. Okay. It hasn't even been a year. Let me see. We're looking at August, September, October, November, December, January, February. Okay. We're like in March now. Okay. It has not even been a full year, not even a full 9 months. And I saw God do a complete 180 in my life and open doors that I thought were never going to open. And maybe that's what the explosion was. It was like, I'm not even opening a door. I'm just blowing it all up. Okay. Just walk. Okay. Anything that might be constricted or like blocking, I'm blowing the whole thing up. Okay. And even if it's if it's your mentality, the way you view things, okay, your thought process, the way you process your thoughts, I'm blowing it all up. Okay. It's all going to be blown up, and I'm going to go ahead and put all these pieces back together the way I want them. Okay. Because you thought you needed to let go of this to be used by me. And I'm saying, no. I like that about you. In fact, I love that about you. I created that for you. Okay. That tone, that loud voice. No. Don't ever muzzle it because someone feels it's not spiritual enough. I created you with this voice. And it's amazing. Like when you don't have something that you've muzzled, right? You realize I need my voice. I need this. And it was just like, God was like, people try to condition you to be who they thought was spiritual. And I'm telling you, the way I created you is spiritual and holy, because you were always devoted to me whenever you learned a thing about me. Whatever I learned about God, I was fully devoted to him. That's holiness. And so when I look at my life, I am so grateful. So sometimes we lose control, but in essence, we get a level of control back. And that's like we have the control to walk with God, and to receive what he has for us. So yeah, I lost control, but I gained so much more in the process. So if there's any point in your life where you feel conflicted, like you don't know where you're going, you feel like everything is going wrong, it's not as bad as you think. It might actually be the answer to all your prayers. So, I am going to get off of here. This is my story about losing control on loss, light, and laughter. And when I tell you God has redeemed me, I am here laughing and cracking up. Okay? Laughing and cracking up about sounding like Eeyore, right? In the middle of tragedy. Okay? So God is faithful. He is merciful. Okay? His love endures forever. Let go of control. Okay? Let it go. All right? Continue to hold on to God and laugh all the way. All right. I'm Michelle A. here. Have a great one. Bye.
Show love, everybody. Show love one time. It's time to give praise, everybody. Give praise one time. Yeah. It's time to show love, everybody. Show love one time.